your guide to the truth. TheNewAmericanMedia.com.
Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, Kentucky, Louisville to be specific. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Unhappy Hour here on the TNAM network, because the news always matters. My name's Brian Engelman, and I'm going to be your host, as I have been for many, many, many years. Joining me today in an episode of Strictly Browns, as it were, we're going to discuss Strictly Browns issues. Brandon Odell. Brandon, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. Just trying to get things prepped up for the upcoming small family gatherings.
Nice. Yes. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Everybody else out there as well. Look, talking about birds, we could talk about Thanksgiving turkeys, if you will, but we took down the Eagles 22-17. It's a game that we were kind of both not able to take control of until late, and then also almost lost control of super late. But in another close game, the Browns have won and have improved to 7-3 on the season. Brandon, I mean, as a defensive player, I loved watching the wet conditions and that grinding, the battle in the trenches. I played defensive end, and most of my games my senior year were wet. It was just tough weather conditions, not talking wind of last week, but really wet and challenging, and it's like a World War I trench battle down there. I loved watching Olivier Vernon show up for the first time since he's put a Browns uniform on. What's your takeaway on the weather in general and what it took to get this win accomplished?
Generally, my take on the weather is that how crazily unlikely it was that you were going to have three straight home games of very inclement weather conditions, even in Cleveland, even off the lake. That is a lot for any team to deal with, and to come out of that 2-1, I think at the end of the day is pretty respectable. I think that all things considered, you probably you're very disappointed that you lost to the Raiders, but in terms of having you had a game versus the Colts a little earlier in the season that you won with a team that was right about at our same level. You lost a game to the Raiders, which is another team that is right about at our level. And then you're beating these teams that you're supposed to beat, and unfortunately losing to the teams you're supposed to lose to. So, I guess in that way, the Browns have been quite predictable so far this season, even in the bad weather. Looks like it might actually rain in Jacksonville coming up, so still kind of hard to really pinpoint where we're at with this passing game. Where we're at with the running game, because the running game still works in any weather. But it's hard to really pin down where we're at with Baker Mayfield. I think he's getting a lot of criticism from a lot of national pundits right now, and some of it I think is certainly warranted. But then on the other hand, I think that a lot of these guys that are just seeing stats and then making their opinions known didn't actually watch any of these games to see what you were trying to be throwing the football in. And I think that needs to be taken into account.
I agree. And, missing Myles Garrett with COVID, and he's going to be out this week as well. I think we get him back after that if everything goes well. But somebody needed to step up, and we had Olivier Vernon and Denzel Ward step up, along with Sione Takitaki. Before we even get to and I agree with you, by the way, on Baker Mayfield. We'll get to that in a second, but it really was the defense that stepped up. We had been saying for a while, and this was maybe with Odell Beckham on the team, that the Browns were a much more dynamic offense, although Baker seemed a little bit more out of sync. What we've been saying is, if the defense can keep us in games, if the defense can show up and be 50% of this winning effort, we're going to be very difficult to contend with, especially with our strong running game, our strong offensive line, and what's turned into a series now of week after week after week of no turnovers from the quarterback. Some of those were obviously a couple of lucky, fortunate bounces or calls that didn't go the other way. But yeah, I mean, I think some of Baker's criticism is fair. I think some of it is unfair. But talk about Taki, talk about Denzel Ward, talk about the defensive effort in general without Myles Garrett, and what kind of role it played on, obviously Carson Wentz is a struggling quarterback right now, but he was signed to a massive extension because the world saw a bunch of great qualities in him. The Eagles had obviously, won a Super Bowl recently. They have talent. They got back into the game, but the defense would not allow it to happen. Just thoughts on on Joe Woods and his defense in general, what we learned from this Eagles game and what we're starting to learn on the season.
Well, I mean, it's once again, I think the same way that you are maybe over, or some people are overly criticizing Baker Mayfield for his performance in the elements. I think that perhaps I want to pump the brakes on the defense a little bit as well, because of playing in these same elements in terms of how they've been able to affect the quarterback. We're going to have another game against a very inexperienced quarterback I believe his name is Jake Luton, who will be starting for, or I'm assuming still starting for Jacksonville with Minshew having been out. And even Minshew himself, pretty inexperienced. So, but I'm not really too exactly sure what I think about this defense, even with having a couple of good performances the last couple of weeks. Like you said, Carson Wentz is a guy who's been struggling big time. It just seems like he's almost like shell-shocked at this point. Just doesn't seem like the same confident quarterback that came in and really whooped. He won that game almost single-handedly. When remember, he ended up beating us in his rookie season on the opening game of the opening game. I believe everybody thought that the Browns were going to come in and dominate because he was a rookie, and he ended up having a really solid game against us. So it's definitely there. But anyway, I guess my point is, let's see how the defense looks with Myles Garrett back against a really solid, similar team in the Tennessee Titans, who will be playing in a few weeks. Because if we have another really good game against a fourth-string rookie quarterback, ultimately that doesn't mean much to me until we can start showing it against premier, top teams. I mean, really, we've been embarrassed by the two best teams we played this year in the Ravens and in the Steelers. And our defenses have been largely ineffective against both of those teams. So let's see what we can do when we're playing the big dogs. And I think I'll have a much different opinion, hopefully, of the defense than I do now, which is still not really a ton of confidence.
Yeah, and that's fair. And I what I'm seeing with this team is that they're a bend but don't break kind of team. And the longer you can keep them in front of you, the more chances, the more dice rolls you get to, show up snake eyes or you get lucky. You're not even lucky. It's almost like with the running game too. With the Browns defense, how it's similar to the Browns running game. If you keep giving them the ball long enough, eventually it's going to pop. Eventually you're going to get that 55-yard run setting up a touchdown. If you, as a defense, continue to let them bend a little bit, let them keep getting passes in, we're eventually going to put a hit on you. We're eventually going to get a takeaway. We're going to get a strip sack. We're going to get a fumble. We're going to get an interception. And it's like the defense is bend, takeaway. Bend, field goal, bend, goal line stand. I think that's who they are. I don't know that they're just going to shut you down in a 3 and out, but we have home run hitters. Home run hitters strike out a bunch. It seems like Andrew Sendejo strikes out all the time, but it just seems like a bend but don't break team with big playmakers from Myles Garrett to Denzel Ward who are going to go for the takeaways, and that balances out over the course of the game. But yeah, you're right. Let's prove it against a team that's legit. How many legit teams have we beat? All right, that's a fair criticism. I mean, we did not look
We've beaten one.
Huh?
We've beaten one. We beat the Colts.
Yeah, and they're an okay team. We could have had the Raiders. We let it slip away. All those other games against the Bengals and, even the Eagles, like they were really close games. We could have really put them away if we could have got a few more first downs, not missed on some of the, the wide open tight ends. Baker underthrew one, then he overthrew one. Obviously the weather sucks, but you're a number one overall pick. You gotta make those. But that does go back to, once again, the Baker Mayfield. Is he taking too much grief? Is he? What makes Baker such a polarizing topic, Brandon? Is it the inconsistent play? Is it the flashes of brilliance? Is it the cockiness and the getting arrested and doing all the commercials? So he's charismatic and dangerous at the same time. He's kind of a clown, and you sometimes wonder if he's putting his effort into the right place. He comes out looking like kind of took a taking notes from Freddie Kitchens, shotgunning beers and putting on weight and not really playing well last year. And I don't know. I mean, Baker has the talent. I mean, he made a lot of good plays that extended drives that kept us in that game. Things that might not be talked about, like a Kareem Hunt leapfrog touchdown or a Nick Chubb stiff arm. But he did. He had several good plays to keep the chains moving that kept the drive moving,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and so maybe our defense and Baker Mayfield are a lot alike. They're still kind of a TBD kind of a thing. I'll tell you somebody who is not TBD. It is Nick Chubb.
Oh, Nick freaking Chubb. That's stiff arm. Where does that rank on your favorite stiff arms of all time? Is it up there?
Oh, man.
It's got to be up there, right? That was a really nice one.
That was just absolutely, I believe the term is just owning somebody,
Trucked him.
So,
yeah, I mean, that was one of my favorite plays ever. And, yeah, Nick Chubb, he's a grinder, man. He's a quiet guy. He works hard. He puts his time in. And some of the ways that he sees the flowing running lanes where he'll kind of change direction and stutter and bounce diagonal, like kind of sideways. I mean, for being a downhill cannonball kind of runner, he has rare talent. He really does have rare talent.
Think about this one, okay? And tell me what you think. What's your opinion here? Because I was talking to my dad about this yesterday. Thinking about like where Nick Chubb ranks as a running back in the history of this organization. He is probably the best running back the team has had since Jim Brown. Name someone better at the running back position that we have had in 70 years or whatever since Jim Brown played.
I mean, Jamal was really nice.
Jamal Lewis?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jamal Lewis is Nick Chubb, but we it would be like Nick Chubb in his third contract. Like it would be like Jamal Lewis. I think is a great comparison because I think that Nick Chubb has a lot of similar qualities as young, second, third year Jamal Lewis, not year 10, which is when we had him.
Probably. I mean, Peyton Hillis. You remember what he did that one year?
Yeah, would you take Peyton Hillis in even with that 1 year over Nick Chubb?
Oh no. I mean, that was a stellar season. I mean, that was a top-notch level season, but he couldn't continue that career, that trajectory at all.
Yeah, and just in terms of the things that he is able to do, just the ways that Nick Chubb is just. I mean, he's just bigger and stronger than everyone else out there. And he's faster than everyone else out there, too. And that's a big difference.
Yes.
Maybe like Hillis at his very best, obviously he ended up being a true flash in the pan, which Nick Chubb is not. Nick Chubb is bigger, stronger, and faster than everybody else out there. And it is a joy to behold. And then having Kareem Hunt as your backup, makes me very happy.
Yeah, and it's not. I don't even view him as the backup. I mean, I know it's like 1A, 1B. It's been said these are top 5 quarterback or top 5 running backs, and they're both on the same team. I mean that leap from nearly the 5-yard line to jump into the corner of the end zone from Kareem Hunt. I mean that it did. I think Baker even said it looked like a Super Mario double jump because he like jumped up and then he even lifted higher when he made contact with the defender and he crashed in for the touchdown.
And that's awesome. You can say 1A, 1B, but at the end of the day, you ask like anybody who the better running back is altogether, and they're going to say Nick Chubb. That dude is incredible,
Mm-hmm.
and him being back after his absence,
Mm-hmm.
you really see what true value he had for the team is when he wasn't in there.
And I think Wyatt Teller was out at the same time as well. Wasn't that last week or 2 weeks ago? So yeah, it was Wyatt Teller was out for a minute, and so was Chubb for a few games. And yeah, it's not the same team. We're not the same offense without Odell Beckham Jr. because he would at least stretch the field. Now it's up to Baker. You got to find a rhythm like you did in the Broncos game. The Bengals game. Once he left, you got to have that rhythm regardless of who's in there. But we're not more dynamic without Odell Beckham Jr. We're not better without Nick Chubb. We're not better without Denzel Ward or Myles Garrett. And that just goes to show. I mean, think about it. From all those players that I just rattled off, I mean, the NFL is kind of a game of survival and attrition. You're going to have big-time losses to big key players, whether it's Beckham for the season, Garrett for 2 games, Chubb for 4 or 5 games, Wyatt Teller for a game or 2, Denzel Ward for a few games now with a calf strain. So, it comes down to, give me your thoughts on Kevin Stefanski now. We're past the midway point of the season. We're 7-3, sitting in, I believe, the number 6 playoff spot. Talk about what Stefanski's brought to the table with his play calling and with his demeanor.
Here's the number one thing that I think illustrates best how I feel and how I think Cleveland in general feels about their coach right now. I can't think of one time this entire season that I've actually been befuddled by a decision that a coach made. And it seems like that's kind of, status quo for being a Browns fan, is that there's going to be these decisions during a game that a coach makes that you're just going to be like, what in the world was he doing? And you would expect it with a rookie head coach. And he's smooth, he's even keel, and he just is always like, you never feel like you're going to be out-coached. You might be like playing against a team that is equally well-coached and might end up ultimately having a better quarterback, better talent, that kind of a thing, but you won't be out-coached. And so that's where I'm at with Kevin Stefanski.
I would say I couldn't understand why we couldn't get it going at all against the Steelers. I couldn't understand why we couldn't get it going at all against the Ravens. I think some of what our memory goes to is the fact that, I think we'll pin a lot of that on Baker Mayfield, poor decisions, not finding a rhythm, trying to force the ball to Beckham. Maybe. I feel like we give Stefanski a bit of a free pass on that because, being the offensive guru that he is, he couldn't scheme anything against those 2 teams. So I will say I had my head scratching moments with those a little bit. I will say maybe his most brilliant move was getting Jarvis Landry to pitch the ball after he – remember, what was the exact breakdown of that razzle-dazzle play that they ran this week against the Eagles where they got it to Landry and then Landry, when he was getting hit, he pitched it back to the running back and,
got it back to Chubb, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, was that Chubb or Hunt on the receiving end of it? But, yeah, I guess with previous coaches, that play would have ended up with a wet ball bouncing off of a glove and becoming a turnover and being a mistake, and you blame the coach. What were you running that razzle-dazzle play for in the rain? But under this regime, they executed it, which is smart because that kept Jarvis Landry from getting a 15-yard penalty for spiking the ball and taunting like he did the week before. So it was very clever play calling by Stefanski there. Yeah, Jarvis, he's been a little up and down, and some of that, you can see some lapses, of control, if you will. But yeah, Stefanski he seems like someone you could see being a head coach for 20 years in this franchise. He's young enough, he's stable enough, he's got the guys playing up to their level, he's getting the people behind him ready. He didn't even have an off season to get ready. I think the team has a bit of a chip on the shoulder. I think Stefanski is the right coach at the right time. The demeanor just seems right. The interactions with the press seem right. Let your all bite, no bark. I like that. I like that a lot. I guess then let's wrap this up with special teams. One of the kicks was blocked, but it does seem like could you say we've solidified that position at kicker with Parkey? And talk about the importance of our punter being able to down that ball inside the 5, which leads to good things, such as the safety from Vernon.
Yeah, I would definitely say I think the position has been stabilized with Parkey. I don't blame him for that blocked kick. Frankly, in those conditions, he's been trying to hit these little stingers, just not have any loft on the ball and just kick it straight, and that's naturally going to have a lower trajectory. So it's more likely to be blocked. Sometimes it's just a good play by the defense, and that's the best that he could do in that situation. So anyway, with that said, I think. That overall, we also had our best return game out of Donovan Peoples-Jones. Mm-hmm. Don't underestimate that. He actually changed field position a few times for us. So I think that's certainly a positive thing. There's a lot to feel good about with the special teams right now.
Yeah, and overall, we're not a perfect team, but we're a team that can win on any given Sunday. Yes, I'd like to see more of it. Let's play the Ravens. Let's play the Steelers. Let's get a couple of those top-notch. Let's get a strong win under our belt for sure. But there's a lot to like about this team, and I just love that Gillum was able to pin them, because that just sets up. You're teeing them up for a perfect opportunity for a safety, and when your defense can put 9 points on the board in a low-scoring game. You can't even put into words how helpful that is to a winning effort. So, in all phases of the game, from coaching to special teams, from defense to offense, we have playmakers with a history of making plays. We have shown some sort of continuity and ability to weather COVID, taking some of our best players, injuries, taking some of our best players, and we're still chugging along. Like you said, still getting the wins against a team we're supposed to be, still having a hard time because we're a little young, we're a little banged up, and we're a little not on the same level, if you will, against the 10-0 Steelers yet. But we're improving. Our trajectory is that of improvement, and it really all starts with the quarterback position not making dumb plays. You can live with him not making great plays when you have an incredible, probably the best in the league, running back committee, easily. One of the best the league has ever seen. So we can play a style of football that, bends but doesn't break and gets you some turnovers, gets you points, whether it's safety or interception returns or fumble returns for touchdowns, and you grind it out and you can win some of these tough games. We're a team to contend with. Are we perfect? No. Do we have room for improvement? Oh, yeah. Let's do a couple more free agent signings. Let's groom a few more people. Let's build up some of our depth. Let's get some of these people healthy again. Let's draft well. We have plenty of room for improvement, but year one under a new regime, I'll take it, Brandon. I'll take it. I'm so excited. It's so nice. It's so nice to be competitive again. Can't even put it into words. So I guess this would be a good place to press pause. Did you have any final thoughts on the game that we saw, what to expect for Jacksonville, or the AFC playoff race in general on our way out the door here?
All I got to say is that there is like a 50% chance of rain during the Jacksonville game as well. So if that ends up holding true, I guess you like our odds, because we certainly would have much more experience in the elements than they would.
That's true. All right, so we'll keep our eyes peeled on that. All right, cool. Well, Brandon, I appreciate you joining us for another episode of Strictly Browns. Let's try to do this more often. Like I said in the text message earlier, we've done so many of these shows during awful years with very little to get excited about. Look, we're in the playoff hunt. We can say that with confidence. Who knows how it plays out from here? I don't know, but we're in the hunt. We're right there. If the season stopped today, we're number 6 in the AFC. That's big.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So we got a lot of positivity and good things to focus on. And, I look forward to a nice playoff run. Fingers crossed. We just got to take care of business. Let's go down to Florida and get that perhaps wet win again. So, Brandon, I appreciate you, good sir. You have a great Thanksgiving. If I don't talk to you in the meantime, send my love to you and the fam. And we will talk again soon. Go Browns.
Yeah, go Browns. Same your way, as always.
All right, buddy. You take care. To be continued.
Bye-bye.
There he goes, everyone. That's Brandon. I'm Brian. I appreciate you. I love you, and we'll talk again soon. Peace.
Your guide to the truth. TheNewAmericanMedia.com.